In July 1945, life in Berlin was marked by contrasts that could hardly have been more extreme. The war was officially over, but the city itself was still telling of destruction, violence, and loss everywhere. Entire streets lay in ruins, houses were burned out or collapsed, window cavities looked up into the sky like empty eyes. The smell of dust, smoke, and damp masonry was constantly in the air. Berlin seemed quieter than before, no more sirens, no more bombs, but this silence was heavy and oppressive. The everyday life of the people was a daily struggle for survival. Food was scarce, hunger was omnipresent. Many Berliners lived on the small rations issued by the occupying powers. Bread, potatoes, or a little margarine determined the menu. Anyone who wanted something extra had to rely on barter, jewelry for food, clothing for a few cigarettes. The black market flourished, especially around train stations and destroyed squares. Money had hardly any value anymore. What mattered was what could be exchanged. The women who began to clean up the city were particularly visible. The so-called Trümmerfrauen shaped the image of the summer of 1945. Using simple tools, often with bare hands, they sorted bricks, hauled stones, and cleared rubble from the streets. Many of them had lost husbands, brothers, or sons in the war, or did not know whether they were still alive. Nevertheless, they worked tirelessly, out of necessity, but also out of the desire to restore order and hope. The mental situation of the people was just as torn apart as the city itself. On the one hand, there was relief that the killing was over. No more bombing nights, no air alarm, no more frontline deployment. On the other hand, uncertainty, fear, and disorientation dominated. Many Berliners wondered how it had come to this and what their own role in the National Socialist system had been. Guilt was rarely talked about openly, often silence prevailed, out of shame, fear, or exhaustion. Politically, Berlin was a city under the control of foreign powers in July 1945. Especially in the East, Soviet soldiers and administrative structures determined everyday life. They were omnipresent, on streets, in buildings, at checkpoints. For some, their presence meant protection and order, for others fear and uncertainty. Rumors of assaults made the rounds, as did reports of assistance. The relationship between the occupiers and the population was tense, contradictory, and characterized by mutual mistrust. Despite all the hardship, a new social life slowly began. Schools opened provisionally, the first newspapers appeared again under Allied control, theaters and concerts tentatively resumed operation. Children played among the rubble, often with found objects from the war, helmets, bullet casings, or wood scraps. For them, the destroyed city was normality, for the adults a painful sight of what was lost. July 1945 was not a real new beginning for Berlin, but a transition. The city lived between past and future, between guilt and hope, between destruction and reconstruction. It was a life in the provisional, characterized by lack and uncertainty, but also by the quiet will to continue. In the midst of the ruins, Berlin slowly began to reinvent itself, not out of strength, but out of necessity.